Hello everybody and welcome. This is Tushar Chande. Welcome to a discussion of BLAST, a versatile bot for swing trading. Have you ever wanted to buy near market lows but hesitated just a little bit? BLAST will help you buy near lows and use an adaptive stop to have efficient exits. Let's dive in. This is a daily chart of SOXL ETF. I've identified three circles. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have bought somewhere in this area? Because after the facts, it's easy to see that these were significant lows. The challenge is to detect them in real time. Is there a systematic way to do that? Let's find out. So we're going to do that using the BLAST indicator. This is the BLAST indicator applied to daily SOXL data. The orange line is the entry trigger or the entry line, and the brown line is the exit trigger or the exit line. And the next slide will show you how we can use it to generate signals. Let's take a moment to understand how the BLAST indicator helps us design entries for the swing system. The orange line is the entry signal or the entry trigger line, and the brown line is a trailing stop. The first entry condition is a low above the signal line. The second entry condition is a high above the signal line and a low above the trailing stop. And the third entry condition is a high above the signal line but a low below the trailing stop. In each case, we could enter above the high of the signal bar or on the open of the next bar. The trailing stop works the same way. It gets triggered when we have a low or a penetration of the trailing stop line, and then we exit on the open of the next bar. Here I've plotted entries and exits using my BLAST bot, and you can see that we have indeed managed to buy in real time inside these circles using the same rules each time and using a systematic approach. Of course, the rules also gave us other entries, but we know how to deal with those. So let's find out more. So this chart shows actual mechanically generated entries and exits using the trading bot inside TrendSpider. This bot only allows you to trade on the next day, and I've chosen to trade on the open. So the exit occurs one day after we actually hit the trailing stop, and the entry occurs one day after we get a trigger. Now here, for example, I've set it up so I want a low above the trigger line before I enter. And then after the exit is triggered, I get out on the open the next day. Similarly, we have a low above the trailing stop. I get it on the open, and then the trade continues with this trailing stop. Now you see that here I have a low above the signal line. I'm long on the open the next day, and now I get stopped out here and I get out the next day. So it's very important to maintain stop discipline, but the main thing to recognize is that we can create a bot that follows and applies the swing system trading rules. This is the daily data for Tesla. We are applying the BLAST indicator, but here we have slightly tweaked the rules to show you that we are getting an entry after a high above the trigger line rather than a low above the trigger line. So weakness, high above the trigger line, entry the next day, and now we're using the trend following exit. Weakness, high above the trigger line and low above the trigger line. So on this part, the high was above, but the low was below the trigger line, so we didn't take this particular high. The next day we have high above the trigger line and low above the exit line, so this is a valid entry. We are long in the open. We follow the trend up. On this bar, we actually trigger the exit, but we can't get out that day. We get out on open the next day because of the rules in the system. We now switch from daily data to hourly data for Tesla, and the system and the rules are applied exactly the same way. For example, here we have a high above the trigger line. We enter on the high, we follow the trailing stop and get stopped out. And again, important to emphasize that we don't know if the market will follow through, So you could get an entry with a weak follow through, so you have to maintain good stop discipline. This illustrates the problem where we're long, but the downtrend reasserts itself, so we get stopped out. So it's very important to maintain stop discipline and be ready for 2 or 3 or 4 successive losing trades. We're applying the same rules now to a 30-minute chart of Tesla, and it works exactly the same way. And again, for example, here we have weakness, strength, we buy the strength, we get stopped out, weakness, strength, buy the strength, get stopped out, weakness, strength, buy the strength, get stopped out, and so forth. So the rules can be applied just as easily on a 30-minute chart. This slide shows a summary of a long-term test using the bot on Apple data. Starting on the left, we have weakness, we buy strength after weakness, trading stop, we get stopped out, choppy market, so we get stopped out multiple times, which shows the importance of maintaining good stop discipline. Weakness, strength after weakness, we go long, get stopped out, weakness, strength after weakness, and then we follow this very nice trend all the way up. This was a closer look at the results of a long-term test using Apple data. We have about 12 years of data. Observe that the blue line and the green lines are pretty close, which means that the performance of the system is quite comparable to the buy and hold performance, which is really good. We had 51% winners and the risk reward ratio was 2.25, which is also very good. So overall, the counter trend system did quite well, trading Apple over a very long period of time. This is an example of using BA daily data, and we are combining the automatic trends that we can draw using the arch indicator with the BLAST bot. For example, here we're in a downtrend, we get a couple of signals that didn't work, and then now we got an entry outside this channel. So we should feel quite confident that this signal should work because we're getting an entry outside the channel. So the advantage of using Arch with Blast is we can use discretion to reject some entries. For example, here we know that Boeing is contained within this price channel, so there's no point in trading it with a counter trend system like Blast because it'll be somewhat slow to react. Of course, using discretion, you're welcome to buy near the lower end of this channel and sell near the high ends of the channel. But the idea here is that we can improve performance of the BLAST system by combining it with the arch indicator. A summary of the strengths and weaknesses of the BLAST bot. The strengths are that the rules are robust, there's no optimization, so you can use them on any time frame, on any market. And the weakness is that it needs good stop discipline because the downtrend can resume. After all, we are pushing against a downtrend by trying to buy weakness, but the weakness could reassert itself. So it's very important to have good stop discipline. So in summary, the BLAST is a counter trend swing system. It has robust rules that can be used on any instrument and any time frame, but the key is to have very good risk control and stop discipline.